Alright guys, let's talk about H.R. 4114, a bill set forth by Representative Williams Roger from Texas. I was a little reluctant to talk about this. It came out in June, kind of has been stale. There's been some more push. Obviously Congress is kind of back and forth in session. They're kind of dealing with a bit of a shutdown at the moment, so they tend to like to grandstand on these government shutdowns, so we don't have time to talk about emissions. We're dealing with a shutdown. But I've been talking about this stuff for a long time, so I'd be remiss if I didn't cover it. There's been a little bit more news on it lately, even though it's kind of been stale. This is one of those things where I am cautiously optimistic. It'd be great to see it happen, but do we really think this is going to happen? Do we really think anything of substance is ever going to happen? I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too cynical. Regardless, we'll talk about it. I always think nothing ever happens, especially when they're big. Like, big things like this feel even more unlikely to happen. Whether it be Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. It's just it's a bit of a big one. Repealing basically the Clean Air Act as it pertains to motor vehicles. So the following bill is it's to amend the Clean Air Act. It's called the Fuel Emissions Freedom Act, and basically it's trying to roll back everything, which is aggressive. It's an aggressive strategy. They're all pretty proud of the Clean Air Act. It tends to make everyone a lot of money. Greenwashing, it's green for everyone. People, there's a lot of green to go around when the word green gets thrown in there, So it's unlikely. Even your diehard Republicans are, they're getting some money under the table. They're getting the old Bill Clinton treatment under the table when this green stuff happens. So they tend not to be as eager to act. Maybe they'll grandstand and pretend they're going to act, but then when push comes to shove, they'll allow it to be laid together with, something crazy like, all bathrooms in middle schools are now for any gender you choose, so those two are now linked together, and then you're like, ugh, darn, I can't vote for that. So then that kind of stuff happens, It's politics. It's as lame to talk about for me sometimes as it is that it exists. But let's get into it anyways. So maybe this will pass. Let's actually see, because I got it up here. I got ChatGPT open. What are the chances this passes? Now, I usually use ChatGPT for these videos because I like to have it help me break these down. This says, given all of the above, I'd estimate, it gave me a full thing. I'd estimated this chance of this bill becoming law at this moment is low to moderate, somewhere around 20 to 30% chance of passing. Okay, that's better than I honestly expected. It gave me a list of reasons why. Party control, industry regulatory interest. Some in the industry actually don't want this to happen because it'll give them an unreasonable disadvantage. So, if this happened to, say, Ford right now, after they just spent a ton of money going for this electrification and other things, it might actually hurt them more than, say, a Dodge, who is, they would probably be in a better situation. Maybe. It'd be hard to imagine Dodge in a better situation, but there's a world where that's a possibility, right? Everybody, there's a chance. Tesla might struggle a little bit if that happened, because people would go for other options. But let's just go for some of the key provisions of this bill. I'm already talking about the ramifications of it happening without even telling you what might happen. So, federal vehicle emissions fuel standards. The bill would repeal Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, which gives EPA authority for new motor vehicle emission standards and related state waiver issues. So it would basically take away the EPA's authority to regulate new motor vehicles emission standards. So that's obvious, an easy example is your new 2500 Duramax that has all this emissions bullshit, EGRs, DEF, DPF filters, all those things. It would say, listen guys, you can't tell them what can come out of the tailpipe. You're done. Too bad. So it would take that away, and then the states also would not have their ability to implement their own. It would amend Section 209 of the Clean Air Act to remove the ability of states to impose fuel and emission standards beyond federal ones. So it specifically does exactly what I said. It doesn't allow states like California, New York, Vermont, Colorado. There's like 17 states that all signed on to the California version of, the Clean Air Act, the CARB standards, that had their own standards, which then effectively controlled the entire federal standards, because if you can't sell in those 17 states, you're going to have a tough time selling cars. So they just ended up falling back to that, and it became you have to make to the lowest denominator, which was the CARB. So they had to basically do that, which was, you make your stuff 50 state legal, or else you're going to have a tough time selling it. Then it does the fuel economy and CAFE standards. The bill would repeal sections 32902, 32918 to sections 02 to 18. So that whole bank of sections of Title 49 USC, which cover fuel economy standards for vehicles, commonly called CAFE. So CAFE standards have all this junk mixed in there. I mean, like it says, it's sections 32902 to 32918. CAFE has a ton of stuff in it, and that is involvement in like size of vehicles and how much emissions by size, and what you can do with like a 5,000 pound vehicle. And it's part of why vehicles have gotten heavier, is to meet that new footprint, because your truck couldn't put out X amount of emissions at this weight. So like, you can't have basically a Ford Ranger that puts out the same amount of emissions as like a bigger Duramax, so they couldn't put bigger engines in smaller chassis, so everything kind of got bloated, yada, yada, yada. Part of that, they would end it, and it would nullify any existing federal regulations issued under those authorities, the ones being repealed, or any state law regulation / executive order pursuant to the affected sections would be nullified and have no force or effect. So it would roll back anything that was done under that situation. References. The bill also states that references in any federal law / executive order, rule, regulation to those authorities or standards would be void, unenforceable. Like I said, it would roll back anything like that. They wouldn't be able to attack it. It sounds great. Now, it does. Normally, I have a lot more energy for this kind of thing, and sometimes they sound a lot more realistic, but like, it's hard to read that and be like, man, I can't wait till they sign that. I even believe that the Republicans signing this, a lot of Republicans would disagree. Like, if you polled a lot of Trump supporters, a lot of them would potentially agree to leave the Clean Air Act in. I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of people, you'd be surprised. A lot of the 70 million people that voted for Trump, I think it would be a dangerous move for, I don't even want to say that honestly, because I just think it'd be I think a lot of them wouldn't do it. I think a lot of them would be scared to sign this. I think a lot of them would feel that this is not progressive. I think this is a progressive policy. I think this is highly progressive. I know that word's been corrupted and stolen by progressives, but I think this is progress. So I'm going to use it. This is a progressive thing to do. It would be to repeal the Clean Air Act. Maybe it made sense at one point, but now EV technology is good enough where it can stand on its own legs. Let it be competitive in a free market, if that's what you guys want. I don't know. I'm sure they'll still attack you. I'm sure California would still do some kind of, crazy, it costs you $10,000 a year actually to register your gas vehicle, but it costs you $0 to register your electric, and then they would just, it would just be negatively impactful for poor people, of course, as most of those policies end up being. I don't know, just how I feel, figured I'd read it off to you guys. Maybe this will happen. Maybe the Clean Air Act will be a thing of the past. Maybe the EPA will lose some of its power, but I don't think so. I don't think anybody's in the business of losing power or taking it away to such a level like this, because there's even a section in here, because there's a section about prohibiting things, and it says all federal level, at the federal level, the government may not establish, enforce, or maintain fuel emission standards for motor vehicles. At the state level, a state may not enforce or maintain any fuel emissions standards for motor vehicles. And preemption clause, any federal or state law, regulation, or executive order establishing fuel emission standards for motor vehicles is nullified and has no force or effect. So basically they're saying that not only now, but never in the future. So I don't think any government agency or anyone is interested in giving up power in the future. They always like to keep that in their back pocket, just in case we need to, flex a little bit, use our muscles, hit them with the baton a couple times. Got to keep the power. You don't give up the stick. You just say you're not going to use it. That's kind of how it feels. Like they would be giving up a lot of power. I don't think they're in the business of doing that. So that's how it is. Obviously, this would create emissions and greenhouse gases and global warming and would destroy the dodo birds. The dodo birds would likely go extinct if this passed. The same day. They would be gone. But that's how it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new here, hit the follow button. Even if subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, do so anyways. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't run a bunch of, spammy ads in here. I'm not trying to get you to buy, I don't know, something that people would try to get you to buy. Play this iPhone game. I play this fishing game every day. I'm not trying to do that. Just hit the follow and subscribe button and like the video.